Right? You there? Oh, how good is that? Let's see. Got a few bits more that relate to shadow banning, and probably good for everybody to know a bit more about the topic of it, of course. But the biggest thing is really that claims people have, of course, where the larger research agencies are engaging in shadow banning. It's covert, of course, because the practice of suppressing material, and you can see even groups or individuals. It's a claim, of course, which most everybody has, but you could look and see online. You can see quite a bit of that, and a consistent sort of a denial where anything is that something does fall into some sort of category, like if it were a political bias or some censorship of business reviews and things just like that are going on, and where punishment is for search engine organisation practices and things. Some of those sorts of things you could understand, because like if somebody's really trying to collect a large amount of people or something that's gone beyond 5 or 7 hashtags and this sort of thing, it just weakens the logarithm to come into the site, because it just shows, somebody's doing what they can to, just harvest sort of thing. So some 200 unique logarithms, I think, are sort of there or more. But see, somebody does to help more prioritise where their material is versus, something's going on that's in our logarithm, which is more about a depolarisation. And what's yours or mine or anyone's perceived sense of things, because certain clarity doesn't actually exist like properly behind the scene of things, and it is because somebody's just making a bylaw themselves, and if you're going to work where their company is, sort of they've got their bylaw, but these are things which are more the common usage of things and should fall more well and truly within a common law rights where everything is. Nothing doesn't. You've got the FTC being asked to sort of investigate various things where you've got private sort of ownership of a larger search engine and things. And so shadow banning really can be based upon even anything which, like a complaint where something is, and it's investigated, of course, supposed to be by the FTC, yet, of course, you can see ongoing where the larger search engines are, but a whole range of various things which is censorship. And then when you look to see where somebody challenges those things, what's the percentage of people that could turn things around? It's fairly high. Why? Well, because it's just like carte blanche, certain things are used as words, and those are the words which are listed sort of for those people and cause shadowbannedness of what the work is itself. Why is that you would look to see what those things are? Okay. So first, like what we've just said, is ranking and those sorts of things. There's sort of some couple hundred factors that go into that, and you can understand a little bit like where sales are and over the net, what's authentic, and part of those factors that SEO relate to what's the authenticity of the site. And then what's the logic, more or less, that's presented, that's existing where something is. That's really more to do with customers' visual ability to be able to see things and pick things out, and what's the usefulness of the material and in a way that it actually is being looked at and things. So logarithms could sense these things to be determining a little bit more some quality of a standard. you can understand things that might relate to that, and then wherever some updatedness is going on. And so the larger search engines that's dominant, is pretty much remained relative to the same, but you've got a mountedness of all sorts of accusations where something was advertised that people thought something existed, which it did, and slow but sure all of that got changed so that there was suddenly no longer a capacity to be able to connect more with a larger number of your people that will be following your work and things. So it's a manipulation, definite, and yeah. Could somebody say that that doesn't exist? It'd be hard-pressed to say that doesn't exist. It's such a broad condition where someone is, you wouldn't think that where shoppingness or anything is, that you could have a whole range of things which by that, suddenly you're banned from shopping to get your shoes somewhere or something. So if this doesn't work across the board, how could it work where this is? It's like things which doesn't work across the board. So it's absolute that you've got a lot of polarization, and it shows lack of congruency and also a lack of transparency, of course. So if something was to align ever more, which most things do, that's progressive, because shouldn't it be that some point that's opposite or whatever be vetted? Wouldn't you want to know what someone other view is? You could be able to recite what that view is. So it's significant, of course, where critique is, and shadow banning is its enforcement. And what is it where it's got a certain opacity, sort of. So it's an invisibleness. And so it's a bit of a problem where that is, because you've got abandonedness and you or I or somebody not necessarily knowing what's obvious. And that's a cause of a harm, injury, cost and damage ongoing where something is, where a policy just carte blanche is. And all of this was used because of what? Oh, because a made-up emergency. And is there that existing? No. And so, you see, a lot of these restrictions and these sorts of things all came along, which was in a time frame planned where a bred confusion somewhat was caused to be, and diminishing ever more. And isn't that like a diminishing trust, asymmetric warfare tactic from some corpse to another corpse? Where social platforms are, so who's behind the nations and things of platform and things, and what the view is where something is, you see. So shadow banning is listing, and so like Amazon now is coming to be a pretty bigger search engine, isn't it? And then because product exists and things, and some sort of accountability, which we were talking about, and what goes on where someone is searching as a customer to find a product or a service or things, which somebody wants to have some standard relative. They don't care too much for any terms for it to be, that's not of your common right to be violated, and things is like this. So you can understand that some of that is within there, that shadowbannedness, where someone's listings or listed what they have as hashtags. So, of course, now you have to see, yeah, that's right, this is a search engine, and what are the hashtags and things, which you shouldn't use those words because apparently that's going to be flaggy sort of thing. So, for, things which is of a taxonomy that relates to something, you've got, like what we have, is something which has been over years of work, which definitely does have the words whole in it. Okay, so well, that's not too bad. It actually is one word, whole brain. But if you break it up and just have brain, that can be a flag where something is of itself. And so, carte blanche, something could be just placed where something is, and that's extraordinarily ignorant and wrong. And so some words, certain it is, seems to be off the puck, actually. So where shadowbannedness would be and what the listedness is, where that search engine is, it really behooves our movement and people to look at and see what accountableness is as certain. But you'd understand that some accountableness is for authentication of a site and some degree of all that filled out to get proper search engine optimization is proper, and that isn't that helping where customers are, or to find more product, just like making just like having it done a Bradstreet number, and so somebody knows who they're working with and who they've purchased something from or what have you, see. And so, but where shadowbannedness is, there could be a whole range of things which is violating the terms of anybody's freedom to have a capacity to do business. And certain, it's like, that's impacting the mail, certainly, and this become the mail, and it's impacting the banking or the processes of things just like this. And it's blocking and stopping and not necessarily causing people to have a free enterprise relative. So, because checks and balances where anything is not transparent. And so this is pretty problematic, isn't it? But if it's run by others outside and it's just done for you because you're getting a service, and these are these major networks which are all just as monopolised of things. And so wouldn't you think that the content of all that would be flagged, because it would be very borderline, because it just is painted with one brush, coming from only one source. And so today, of course, those are the big channels that used to be a slow but sure, not necessarily keeping any audience, because, information is coming to people's phones, this sort of thing. And you've got reenactment capture software, which, you can put somebody else in there and you could use their body, their voice and things like this. And that's, quite having been done for some time now, that sort of software. And so you've got people that you can see a lot of misinformation, and where as certain it is, where some sensitive topics can be, where somebody's got greater experience, of course, they're going to keep what visibility should be. Otherwise, obvious it is that some sort of shadow ban could cause some visibility about what you did to have some strike. And so the major networks you want to make sure that they've stopped sort of spam types of things. And but obvious too, you could see where banned hashtags are. There are often not a lot of words that you probably wouldn't want to use. It's just like off the chart sort of thing. But then something has got to be fitted into some context, you see. So now something comes to be a little bit more weighted where anything is. But if something is just flagged because of a word and put to the side and sort of chucked to the bottom of the heap, it can be rough and wrong and capricious. So, it's rules like where you are in life. If I just said, I'm going to block these people and I'm going to censor those few over there, you know what I mean? And anybody showing up with certain sort of look, they're going to be hell-banned. But for people who are sort of really a bit voiceless, they should be muted evermore and silenced and ghosted. You see, these are all same words as shadow banning, but that something is restricted, and so somebody's account where they are, it's where someone's searchedness is for you, and where posts or things that's hashtagged somebody who's a subscriber could see a story or a post, and yet, most may not, you see, and it's quite considerable. What do you know about that? So podcasts which could be stopped, of course, showing and only be shown for you or some of your subscribers, but disappear basic from hashtag search result, which all of a sudden somebody goes, wow, well, I had 12,000 people, 15, 20,000 people, and suddenly I've got 500. It's like, what would be the reason? It's just all of a sudden got a drop off, and undisclosed, of course, behind the scene is abandonedness raising. What's the condition that's a legal or lawful challenge where anything is to proper fairness where this is, and certain transparency, informed consent and things where someone's service is, and doesn't that, when you've got another idea about things going on, suddenly be something which is false advertising? And why wouldn't that be false advertising? And so if it's not illegal for one nation to use asymmetric warfare tactic on another nation, and isn't this what's sort of going on in all of it? And that's kind of not being looked at, should be, because something is going on way above it all, you see. And this is getting stand-down orders, like a stand-down order was for a whole range of things, which came down to a stand-down order. It's like, wow, proper investigations could sometimes not have gone on, and there's so much in our past like that. So what's fair? What's transparent to you, you see? And today, it's possible, which you could just look at the Dutch courts and things, just like look around. But you can see various platforms having been, fined and things, and awards be given out because shadow banning of a user was without any proper notifiedness much at all. And so to suppress accounts, and you're just violating everybody's freedom, and you've got a set of guidelines or whatever, but most people can have not even heard of that before. So, wow, isn't that exact? Of course, can that be a policy? And so it was a policy to do that, but who did that? You see, if you're engaging in things which you're not looking at, which is from outside influence, how bad is that? It should be, because you're going to have a better ability to be able to survive where you are. But otherwise, all spammy stuff you can understand. Hey, of course, all that's generated just real low value content. Wow, of course, like somebody's just streaming something and they eat a tomato, like we were talking about. They look at the wall, and then they're in internal dialogue, and so it's just sort of very word salady. And so reducing visibility, though, to proper conditioning of things where information is, you'd be sort of quite seriously taking away someone's right. It's like, wow, and how much is that going on? A platform's a logarithm, wherever that is, and your visibility that relates to your account isn't that anything that's supposed to be explicit, implied and explicit as part of some anything contract? But, well, it doesn't say there's any contract there, does it? But you would imagine it's supposed to, because you're getting some service, but then that doesn't happen. So what's made of its content, all of it, less visible suddenly, where someone's teaching you how to use more of your neurology and have integration, association, and be more integrated, congruent. Suddenly, because something goes on, you didn't know that, but if you challenged it 80% of the time, might that be something that gets reversed and things? And if you didn't do that, it just goes on and what have you. It's like, whoa. You see, what's explicit evermore, that's evermore notified, and things that's like that. But if no challenge exists because somebody cared to put something together where that was, what's the fair use of all that for helping educate people? Of course, the platform where logarithms detect and cause whatever content that violated, of course, and certainly it is, you could see restrictedness of certain things and what have you, and certain like deemed spammy stuff, nobody's going to say that shouldn't be, and that, spammy stuff is very abusive, like where someone has something in their email and they have 7,000 emails and they're all from about 4 or 5, corporations. And then you have to hold on to all that unless you delete it. So you've got a lot of things, of course, coming up where this topic is of what's the use of shadow banning and how can that have affected your work's visibility. You've got users which could be posting and commenting and interacting where it seems like usual, but behind the scene you've got like a Stuxnet virus which modifies everything to see and seem to be relative normal, but behind the scenes there you've got things that's just not working out at all. But behind that, but beside it, you've got very obvious things gone on too, which where was original conditions of something where people had that they would be able to connect with each other, and suddenly that's reduced to 9 or something. It's you didn't sign up for that to be reduced to 9. And people had a lot of businesses and things, and all of a sudden it's reduced to 9, and you didn't sign up to have a service which would reduce all of a sudden by their acts completely restrict and everything your customers and things. So users really supposed to have noticed where something is, but otherwise most of it no one is. And so because why? Well, because it's so covert of itself. So a drop wherever engagement is, where your search engine is looking at is a good test for one's own sort of going on around about this, other account private browsing sorts of sessions and things like that can show up and give you ability to see that content that you're supposed to have there doesn't appear for them, where search is and hashtag feeds. So you've got larger search engines which is just not really, would you say, notifying where people are, because why? Well, because it's really covert, isn't it, a lot? But you could look at certain things. I'm not sure if anything is, if you can think that something isn't transparent, what's put there, is that also transparent? Or is it the same pattern where that is, like in an asymmetrical affair, obvious that can cause people not to be able to make decisions properly because you're not receiving truth. So optimizing your title where you're some thumbnail that you're using, and search engine optimization, like we just were saying, is really you're targeting better your audience, and you're promoting the various things which you're uploading, and you're getting a schedule and anticipation of things. And somebody could be paying attention to that. Otherwise, it's like sudden drops and things like this is, I wouldn't expect a possibility of a logarithm, and it'd be wise that you're free of whatever that is. It's really sudden that what is the damage and harm and cost that somebody just sees what you did and they think to themselves, well, that never moved. I think that would show you that something has been shadow banned. It might be a reason why you should look at something, you see, because it's unusual that something would be just of such a low broad number, and you'd know for sure that's absolute, that something has been shadow banned. And wouldn't that be because of the import to you probable, especially if you've got a reason to feel that a lot of inconsistencies exist where a mindset might be, and we were going to say that dollars or something isn't behind all that misinformation, a mismatch where content is, you could understand. Yeah, sure. It's just natural that a logarithm exists to stop and block or mismatch sort of content where audience interest is. And it's sudden, of course, otherwise. But if it's not logical, but if something is logical, well, that is really important because that's you having proper good search engine optimization. And so what's unexplained where some drop might have been, and it's you're being able to check your account status where that is, and you're looking at all the platform settings, and you're looking to see what the test is of where content has been, and anything that's visible relative to the profile, and you're checking out the unique counts that you've got where social platforms are that you've built. So it's very, what I'm saying, which is the claim problematic bad, is some invisible mode going on which bans and blocks and stops. And, it's pretty wayward and an official view might not at all be any popular view whatsoever on various things where documents are and what somebody wants to release and what they don't. Can't you see that going on so huge? Of course. So you've got the search engine files, and because search engines can be where claims exist because stuff's going on, which is a practice of using complete invisibility or visible filteredness, but you don't know. So it's a taggedness with, hey, don't amplify any of this, you see? So that there you go, where some list existed, it sort of effectively goes ahead to other than give proper visibility like something should. And so something should be important, what is, because a viewpoint is where someone has got good journalism, yet somebody could be shadowbanned because you're hearing things and it's what others could be astroturfed about, meaning some false movement was created purposely, but there's nobody behind that. So keywords, of course, whereas anybody is, and the phrases that you use, so accurate. And so why not have a little look and see what's popular and use the things which is, and keywords and phrases which you can look at, and each search engine sort of is going to tell you what are the most popular subjects, then words, ways to put something, it's going to tell you. So it's like a thesaurus of what you probably should use. Otherwise, like what a shadowban is a sense of a creator's experience, and you're feeling like looking at stuff and saying, wow, all of a sudden there was a significant drop in views, engagements seemed to be not much, and probable not without any official strike or any warning, you see? And so it doesn't really necessarily say that anyone who did that officially acknowledges per se this straight up shadow banning. And so many people who are creating things, there's a hidden form of a restriction, and to whatever that you did do, where a video was, or a podcast, or an article, or things just like this, it's really recommended that somebody has a look to see where your audience is, and can you effectively verify more or less that this is what your audience is. Because, like I said, somebody could have viewed something and it just doesn't ever shift. And if it didn't, you'd note that, well, that is because that has some import, well and truly. But you're not going to see it, you see, basically, because those are things that are not going to show up, because you've got to have a certain search engine optimization. And so keywords that you're using and you're putting in those important places, the more that you've got some titling and things like that is very good. And your capacity to be able to have just tagged perfect what the description is of the subject matter. And so you and I or anyone, we all get a greater, better capacity, and the production of what you do can be much more fine. So optimizing things, which is the thumbnail text that you use, your titles, and what you're doing is to really have engagement, isn't it? And isn't that the community that you're building? And isn't that where trend exists, where the timing is masterful? And so it's really behooves us to, maybe only have 5 or 8 tags, because what do you need more tags for? In your description of things, and you're really targeting what's the better wordedness and approach to have that gives you attention. And so, you've got attention grabbing element. You've got some phrase where you've got a visual action or something, or something auditory, but a beginnedness where something comes with a big bang and goes out with a big bang, and that's a pretty good show. Otherwise, a lot of stuff is fairly lame. And your viewing is showing encouragement where things are. And so it's important today, because that could be not being said, for you to be able to note where that is and to put the message out about this, your own self. What is it that you verify, see, where your viewings and things is like that. So what's catchy and line grabbing, it's really attention-grabbing elements, of course, in the phrases that you use. What are your visuals are they very attractive? Do they fit with modern art more? What's the action, more or less, that's placed there? Do you have something afterward, like, if you love this, click and subscribe, because you'd really be love to be notified about great, important information that's coming up, you see. And so if you've got an immediate capacity to be engaged a bit more, you see, as a viewer or listener. And isn't it that something that's all of a sudden grabbed your attention you want to hear a little bit more about? And wouldn't there be maybe other topics too? Some good journalism is going to really be far more naturally integrated. And it's certainly going to be having more subscribers and call to action types of stuff. So it's really the administration where you or I are, or anything, and websites where they are, where the search engines are at the moment, and what space terms sort of exist, and this sort of thing. So it's a small taxonomy that somebody could have put, where the subject is of shadow banning. And it's like, are you doing things what you can to kind of put things in terms of what's active in your speaking? And is the verb is something where you are? I think that's a wise thing you might look for, you see, because isn't that what is versus something else? Right. So anyway, I think this wraps some things up about what I was just thinking to say, keeping it really neat. Some of the subject of what goes on where anybody is, you could have some understanding about some of it, couldn't you? But then other stuff, could you think, well, information that is important, like I would think where messages exist, certain it is you would think priorities might be because, why? Well, because it is helpful, because it's helping somebody make a proper decision about things, isn't it? If somebody had the choice to get an over-the-counter whole food vitamin mineral complex, and or versus they could have got something which was really more ceramided, meaning just quite crystallized and not of any value anymore. But what's the value of something? Isn't that to do with yours or my or anybody's education about things? Yeah. And something which is not common, I think a lot of things which we do is not common. It's uncommon wisdom, yeah? You've got common wisdom and you've got uncommon wisdom. I think there's ways for AI to be used to clear up and clear away things pretty easy, because you can select out of what this is. It's called scrubbing. And then you've got other things which is in a file. And so those are things which is looked at to see what could be done where that is. But, but the biggest thing that I know is what ease of ability does somebody have to be able to get to what your information is, how's that presented and things, so that somebody can see the content of it. And so they've got a key where they are to understand how the site is. And so that's something which I must do. And certain it is, like, how does that cause your search engine optimization to come to be better? Hell yes. So our topic today is no question about it, got a lot of legitimacy to it, you see, yeah, and especially where our movement is. Because anyway, wouldn't you think that the more athletic somebody is in their ability to do something, to put more hours, put their more time in, and you typically could have a better product versus not much time or thought put into something? The more variables that somebody has, the more likely that they're going to have success, yeah, as a strategy.